frustrated, uncomfortable, tired, and just plain confused with all that conflicting health advice out there? Feeling like you must be broken because nothing works or sticks? Well, don't throw in that towel just yet. I'm here to tell you that you are not broken or destined to be unhealthy, tired, or sick the rest of your life. Hey, I'm Jolene, a nutritional therapy practitioner and your BFF on this crazy wild ride. Here at Holistic Health Made Simple, we stop focusing on the scale and size and take small steps to reach those healthy dreams. We combine ancestral wisdom, science, and good old common sense to find what health looks like for us. Grab some water, pop in those headphones, and let's do this. Hey there. So, last episode, which was episode 95, if you haven't listened, go back and listen, was on empowered eating. I believe that everybody needs to get to a point where we have the power over our food choices. Meaning, we choose to eat healthy, and sometimes we choose to indulge without the guilt, without the feeling of failure, without any negativity a part of it. Now that takes work that doesn't end. It's continuous work. First of all, we have to focus on wanting and desiring to be as metabolically healthy as we can. And now you might be thinking, well, how can you indulge and be metabolically healthy? Our health markers are based on what we consistently do most of the time. Not all of the time, most of the time. That's how we can have our occasional indulgences and not feel guilt or shame over them. Shifting our focus to being holistically, metabolically healthy. I know that was a mouthful, but your holistic health means total health, mind, body, soul, spirit, whatever you call that part of it. Metabolically healthy is those metabolic markers we can actually test, because when it comes to holistic health, there's not a lot of tests in there. It's how we overall feel as a total, whole human being. To get here, we have to be willing to evaluate ourselves, to check in with ourselves, to own our own shit. And if you have not listened to episode 94, please go back and listen to that one as well. It's the shift you need to make. We have to be very, very aware of what we are telling ourselves. What we believe, are they really truths or things we made up? We need to get out of our own heads and start being more realistic with how things are making us feel. Are we reaching for junk food because of something stressful and emotional? Or is it an empowered choice? There's a difference. Empowered choices mean we're choosing to indulge in something we enjoy eating. Nothing more, nothing less. It is not to find comfort. It is not to change any sort of emotion other than we want to enjoy whatever that indulgence is. To get to empowered eating, we have to get to the point where we can actually hear our bodies. Meaning, we understand hunger cues, thirst cues. We understand when we're going for something because of emotions, or we're tired or stressed. We have to be able to be self-aware enough to understand what our body's telling us. And after an indulgence, we have to be realistic enough to see if that thing really made us feel horrible or not. Or was it emotions that made us feel horrible? Or was it the food itself? Just because someone really, really, really loves bread doesn't mean that bread isn't gonna make them sick. See, that's where indulgences have to be empowered. You're not gonna indulge in something that makes you ill. That's just dumb. So now you're wondering, how do you get there? I have 7 power steps that I like everybody who's starting a journey to start implementing, because these 7 steps get you to that point of hearing your body, of becoming more self-aware. Now, it's not something that happens overnight, but it's things we can do to become that empowered eater. Here's the thing. I can teach you the steps, but until you do them and experience them, you're not going to get to that next step of becoming an empowered eater or getting closer to becoming an empowered eater. So right now I'm going to teach you the steps, but you have to do them. Okay? None of this health stuff works unless you do. You can learn and learn and learn and learn and learn and overthink it and whatever, but you need to do. You won't even know if certain things work for you or don't until you do. These basic steps are just that. They're basic steps. They work for everybody to start checking in with their body. As I've said in the past, there is no one way to health. There is just steps and experimentation along the way. So these 7 steps are going to help empower you to learn how to make empowered choices. Hey, I really love that word empowered today, don't I? So where exactly do you start? Well, in the morning, of course. Every morning, start your day with a glass of water with some lemon. Both of them help get you rehydrated versus coffee first thing. We've slept all night. Most of us don't drink water throughout the night, and the lemon has some potassium and some essential minerals. It also helps get those juices flowing in your body. It aids in the hydration, and it helps eliminate some toxins. So getting your day started with this glass of lemon water is huge. I like it kind of warm, especially on a cold winter day, but cold water works fine, whichever you prefer. But while I'm sipping the water in the morning, I set some clear intentions for the day. I sit in quiet. I plan my day out a little bit. I jot down a few big things I need to get done. I do some gratitude journaling, prayer, meditation, breath work. I start my day on a positive note in quiet. So it's really important, that first step. It's kind of getting your day started on the right note. Getting your day started on a positive, happy note affects your mood for the entire day. So you're less likely to make food choices based on negative emotions. Now, the next one, we're going to get into some food choices right now, is swap it out. You've heard me say this over and over again. Swap out a processed food. Pick one with a whole foods option that day. Just try to do this slowly. I've said it before, our goal is to eliminate as much processed food as possible out of our normal daily diet, so that it's the indulgence that we're empowered, not the everyday thing where our taste buds are dulled and we can't make good choices. So we want to start making choices in a positive whole foods way. The next power step is something you know I am all in for. Adding 1 to 2 portions of ferments every day, because we want to get our gut healthy. When our gut's healthy, our mood's good, our hormones are good, our digestion is good, as well as the foods we start craving change because our gut microbiome is healthy and well balanced. So we're less likely to start craving all those sugary foods that we might have craved in the past. Ferments have been produced for centuries. So you really want to get them in. It is part of every culture as well. So if you haven't, there is an episode on fermented foods. It is really old. I'll try to link it in the show notes once I find it. But fermented foods, the prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotics you get from them overall help your health beyond the physicality. It's mental, it's physical, it's emotional. So don't forget your fermented foods. They are powerhouses in your body. And then when it comes to food choices, we want to always prioritize protein. Again, I will link the episode on protein on the show notes as well. But the reason for this is protein helps keep you full. It is the building blocks of muscle. So we all know we do not want to lose any lean muscle mass. So we need to make sure we're always supplying our body with new healthy building blocks of amino acids, which only come from protein. And for so many women, getting in enough protein seems to be a struggle because we need to get a minimum of 90 grams of protein a day. Upwards of 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. For many, that's a lot. That's over 120 for the average woman. So we want to get somewhere between the 90 to 120 plus, depending on if you're a really tall person. That requires for some of us, especially as we're in perimenopause and menopause, eating 3 meals a day. It is really hard to get in enough protein in 1 to 2 meals. So we want to try to hit a minimum of 30 grams of protein per meal so that we can prioritize it. Also, by prioritizing our protein when we sit down to eat, that leaves us with less room for the other crap that we just don't want to eat as much. So focusing in on that protein, focusing in on it in a way where it helps us maintain a healthy body weight, because it circulates, and anything we don't use in 24 hours generally gets excreted. Protein rarely ever gets stored as fat. It can, but it rarely ever does. So the key is to focus in on our protein so that we know if we're hungry or not, because we know we got our protein in there. Oftentimes I see people that have eaten a meal and are starving. It's because they ate all carbs. They didn't have enough protein, so they had nothing to keep them full. Prioritize your protein. It is the building blocks. We need it, especially as we age. We don't want sarcopenia. We want to be healthy and strong. We also want to do some things that help us maintain our muscle mass. Things with light weights. You can incorporate that in both of these categories of mindful movement and the light to moderate exercise. Mindful movement, things like yoga, actually uses body weight to build muscle, retain muscle. So yoga is an awesome form of mindfulness, stress relief, as well as muscle building and muscle maintaining. Now, when you're walking or dancing, all of that, you can also incorporate some light weights in between, do some circuit training in between the cardio parts of it. But the key is here with these forms of movement, we are trying to trigger the release of endorphins. We want to feel good. We want to release the tension, release the stress, and tune into our body. So walking outside in nature, paying attention to how our body feels. Don't necessarily check out while you're exercising. Check in to yourself as you're doing these exercises. It's going to be the key of getting to the next step. We want to get in tune with our body from top to bottom. We want to understand our mental health, our mental state of that time period. We want to know physically how we're doing, checking in from head to toe, always being aware of how we are feeling is important. So getting that movement is one way that we can check in. The next power step actually can be combined with a couple of the other ones. It's getting a daily dose of morning sunlight. So if you want to go outside and drink your lemon water and set your intentions in the sunlight, that's perfect. If you rather do that in the quiet of your house, go out and do your morning movement in the sunlight first thing in the morning. Whatever it is, get outside. We want a minimum of 5 to 10 minutes in the morning sunlight. Now, it doesn't have to be first thing when you get up. It just has to be in that morning period, just to get the day going. Morning sun exposure has been shown to lower cortisol levels later in the day. So if you get really stressed out later in the day, if you get your morning sunshine, it helps reduce those cortisol levels. It helps you feel better. It helps suppress melatonin in the morning, so it helps you feel more alert and awake. That's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get our body back in sync the way it's meant to be. So some tips to getting more morning sunlight would be open your blinds and curtains in the morning. First thing in the morning, open the windows, open the blinds. Sip your water and tea. We already talked about that outside. We basically want to try to shift our morning routine to be outside, as long as it's not cold. We don't want you to freeze. That's not what we're saying. But if you can take your habits outside in the morning to journal, read, eat your breakfast, all of that, do that. And if it's cold, just sit next to a sunny window. That almost does the exact same thing. It's not perfect, but it works. So that is another way to get some sunshine first thing in the morning, especially if you live where it snows. Just sit by a window, let that sun peek in through your eyes, open the curtains, and just get some morning light. The last power step I'm going to talk to you about today is breathwork. Breathing. It's such a powerful tool to let go of stress. Breath influences how you feel. Shallow breathing can trigger your body's fight or flight response. But when we breathe deeply and slowly and with intent, it has the exact opposite effect. Breathing works on our autonomic nervous system. It helps us get back into a parasympathetic mode to be calm. The benefits of breath work are immense. Here's a few things it can do. It can reduce your stress and anxiety. It can improve your digestion, improve your sleep. It can boost immunity. It increases energy. It helps with your focus. It helps heal from trauma. It lowers your blood pressure. It does so many things, and there's so many different forms. Utilizing breath work is one of the tools I throw in the toolbox to teach people how to eat from a place of empowerment, to make food choices, empowered food choices. You know, this whole thing about empowered eating, these are all tools we use to either check in with our body, to get the signals working right, and to stop and become more empowered. Breathwork is one of the key tools I use today to make empowered choices when it comes to my food. Am I making this choice out of an emotional, or am I making it just because I'm making it? Breathwork is probably one of the most powerful things I utilize with clients, with myself, to be the healthiest version of myself. So don't discard the benefits of breath work and breathing for all aspects of your life and all aspects of empowerment in your life. One of the key things I started using it for years ago was stressful situations at work when I worked in an office, with some deep breathing to reset my nervous system so that I could remain calm and intelligent and make smart decisions moving forward and not talk out of emotion, but out of a place of understanding. Now that you know what my top power habits are, it's time to turn them into habits. What is a habit exactly? It's a ritual or a routine that we do consistently without much conscious effort. So it's something that when we get stressed, we just automatically start breathing. It's not that we have to think about ways to reduce stress, we just do it. It's that every morning we take a few minutes and step outside into the sunlight. Or we make the water without even thinking about it. We put the lemon in, we have our water, we start our journaling. It's not much think, it's just something we do every day, like brush our teeth. Brushing your teeth is a habit. The more consistently we do these steps, these habits, the more they become second nature. And that's why old habits are hard to break, is because they've become like such second nature. So we want to work on these new ones first and implementing them before we start taking stuff away. It's much easier to build a new habit than it is to break an old one. So start by building these new ones, and then you start picking and choosing the ones of the old ones you want to break. So it may take a while. It could take up to a year to build a habit, unfortunately. On average, it's about 65 days, 70 days. So take it slow. Take it one small step at a time. One power step at a time. Don't try to overhaul your whole life at once. It makes it a lot harder to do. However, you're not going to want to come back and listen to this 7 times, 10 times, whatever it is. I mean, I'd love it if you do. Feel free to do it. But if you go into the show notes, there is a handout with all of these habits spelt out. They've got a little bit more information on all of them as well. Or you can go to holistichealthmadesimple.com/kickstart and grab your free guide today. On that note, friends, I will see you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening. I hope you got some nuggets to take on your health journey. Remember, this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes. No medical advice is being given, and by listening to this podcast, you agree to the full disclaimer, which is linked in the show notes. You can stay connected by joining the newsletter over at holistichealthmadesimple.com, where I share additional tips and tricks weekly. Once again, thank you for being part of my community. Until next time, have a blessed day.